Okay, we're ready to start Basics of Biblical Hebrew, Chapter 30. This will be the Piel stem, beginning that, the strong verbs. But before that, we'll have a Hebrew insight, and we'll have the time for workbook questions and translations. And then we'll look at the Piel stem strong verbs, and we'll go over the vocabulary. This shouldn't take the full hour. But for the insight, just as kind of a reminder, number 6, 24 through 26, Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his face on you and give you peace. I want to home in on this, make his face shine on you. How does he do this? Well, we can kind of see an answer for that in Psalm 119, 135. And it looks like this. We have the faces of you, but face is always plural because face is made up of a number of things: 2 eyes, nose, 2 ears, a mouth, hair. So it's always faces, but we don't always translate that way. So we just say the face of you, panecha. Then we have air, which is the hay, is an indicator we got a he fill. And the tsere also tells us he fill. This happens to be a he fill imperative. Okay. So it's cause to shine. So cause to shine your face on the servant of you, ba'avadecha, on the servant of you. So on your servant. Cause your face to shine on your servant. How does he cause his face to shine on his servant? That's like what we're talking about up here, is make his face shine on you. How does he cause his face to shine? By following this request here, Vilama Deni. Vilama Deni. Let's see the Vav and. Notice we have a patak under the R1, we have a dagesh under the R2, and then we have the pronominal suffix, first person common singular. I'll get those out of the way so we can see the word better. And make learn me, that's a PL, which we'll be studying tonight. It's a PL, and it's often used to bring something to a state. So it says, and make learn me. Well, that's kind of odd to make learn me. Well, lamed means learn, but in the PL, it's intensive. It means make learn, and if you make somebody learn something, you're teaching them. So we actually just translate it, teach me, and teach me. So cause the face of you to shine on me, on your servant, and teach me your statutes, kukeka. Teach me your statutes. When he teaches the statutes to his servants, that is a way that he causes his face to shine on us. When he teaches us, we can walk in his ways. If he doesn't teach us, we can't walk in his ways, and that's not the way of blessing. The way of blessing is to walk in his ways. Last week, we looked at Lamentations 3:22 and saw that because of his cheseds, that we wouldn't say it that way, but it was chesed plural, that we have not come to an end. Well, keeping that in mind and looking at Psalm 119, 124. And again, we'll just take it piece by piece here. We have aseh, which is do. Im is with. Avdecha, the servant of you. Do with the servant of you. Then we have k, chazdecha. K is the preposition. Chazde is a joining vowel there, a connecting vowel. But there's chesed, and then ka is the second person masculine singular pronominal suffix. So do with the servant of you, your servant, according to the chesed of you, or as the chesed of you, according to the chesed of you. Okay, how does he do chesed to his servant? God's great chesed is demonstrated in the sacrifice of his son, Jesus. As his child, how does God treat us with loving kindness? V'kucheka, and the statutes of you, Lamadani. Lamadani. We see lamed there again, which means to learn. But again, this is a PL. Notice the Dagash. Notice the Patak. That's what we're going to be studying. So make, learn, or teach me. The statutes you teach me. It is chesed to us when he teaches us his statutes or teaches us his word. And we read and study his word so that we will know him better, love him more, walk in his ways, become more like Jesus. As we do, he causes his face to shine on us. He teaches us his ways. And this teaching his ways, his word to us is an expression of his loving kindnesses, his chesed. And that's why we read Hebrew. Okay, are there any questions on the workbook, chapter 29, which are the hopeful weak verbs? I don't see any notes in there of anything that need to be corrected from the answer key. So let's go ahead and go to the translations. We have extra translations. We have the Hebrew reading 3. We'll go through it, but it'll be quick. It's pretty straightforward. So starting with the first one, again, we're looking for hopeful weak verbs. So number one is from Exodus 21:15. And again, as always, I'm just going to go through and give a wooden, rough, literal translation of each word. So we have, and the one striking his father, and, or you can say, or his mother, to die, he will be caused to die. All right, well, the first word there, that's not one we're looking for, but we see the mem on the front, and yes, that's a participle because we see that sere under the R2. Yes, that is a he fill. And so it's causing to strike, but we wouldn't really translate it that way. If we were writing a translation of the Bible, we'd say just, and the one striking, instead of the one causing to strike. But that's what that is. And then, so that's the first word, but that's not the hopeful. We're looking for hopefuls, and that's the last word. We have to die. He will be caused to die. He will be caused to die. We see the U there, so it's actually a hufal. We got the U and the comments. We got the A vowel. That's a hufal. So it's causative and it's passive. He will be caused, passive, be caused to die. Number 2 from Genesis 28:12. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder caused to be stood. That should ring a bell right there. Earthward, that comments hey at the end of arts, or Eretz, it's artsah here. Artsah, that's a directional hey, so earthward. And his head, or the top of the ladder, that is, causing to touch the heavens word, and we have another directional hey at the end. And behold, the messengers, or you say angels of God, one's going up and one's going down on him. So we got one's going up, one's going down. You see the O vowels on there. Those are participles, but they're not hopefuls. Those are calls. So the hopeful, the first one is we see right after he's got the word ladder in there. It's mutsav. Mutsav. We see, so it's a hufal again, if you want to call it that. We see the U vowel, we see the A vowel. And so this is a causative passive. So he caused to be stood. He was caused to be stood. Let's put the was in there to make it passive. He was caused to be stood. Let's see, was there anything else? I think that's all. Okay. Oh, well, no, there was one. The last word of the first line, we see again the mem on the front. Yes, there's a participle. You see the hirik yod in the middle. Yes, that is a he fill. So that's why I think I probably said causing to touch. But it's a he fill, not a hopeful. Okay, number 3, 1 Samuel 11:13. And he said, Saul, so Saul's the one saying it, not he will be caused to die, a man, on the day of this one, because the day, or we say today, he did, who did? Yahweh. Yahweh did salvation in Israel. Okay, we have, and he said, Saul, not he will be caused to die, you mot. Notice we have the you, we have the shurik, U vowel with the yod, third masculine singular performative of the imperfect, and we have that patak. So we have the who and the ah there for who fall. Number 4, from Genesis 39:1, and Joseph, he was caused to go down Egypt ward. There's another one of those directional hays. And he bought him, Potiphar. So Potiphar bought him. Potiphar, who is he? It's a restatement here, an apposition. He was an official of Pharaoh, the prince of the bodyguards, a man, an Egyptian, from the hand of the Ishmaelites, who he caused him to go down theirward. There's another directional hay, theirward. So looking for who falls, second word in, and Joseph, he was caused to go down. In other words, they brought him down. We wouldn't say that in a real translation, but that's what it woodenly is. If you cause to go down, you bring down. So he caused to go down. We see the who on the front. We see the a vowel under the resh. So that's a who fall or a ho fall. And then the last word of the second line, we do who, he caused him to go down. Well, we do have ho on the front, so that's hopeful. And then actually that should be they caused him to go down. They caused him to go down. Because the kibbutz there should be the third person common plural, and then the who on the end is the pronominal suffix, third person masculine singular pronominal suffix. All right, and then number 5. Is from Ruth 2:11. And he answered, Boaz. So Boaz is the one that answered, and he said to her, to be caused to be told, he was told to me, all that you did with your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, and you left your father and your mother and the land of the relations of you, and you went to a people who not you know, not you knew. They should make that past. Not you knew. All right, so we have 2 hopefuls. You probably could tell them whenever I got there, to cause to be told, he was told. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th and 6th words in, we see the hay and the kibbutz. So we have who, and then we have tsere there. It's adjusted vowel, but we still have the who. And then the next word, who. The first one is a infinitive, to be caused to be told. He was told. So in a translation, we probably just say, it was surely told to me, or it was certainly told to me. We have an infinitive to emphasize it, infinitive absolute to emphasize the verb. And it's always easy to see that from the standpoint of having 2 of the same roots right in a row, and the first one's an infinitive, and the second one is not. But those are our 2 who falls in that verse. Number 6, Jeremiah 27:16. Our verse is a little longer this week. And to the ones priesting, and to all the people, this people, I spoke to say, thus he said, Yahweh, not you all will listen to the words of y'all's prophets. The one prophesying, the ones prophesying to you all to say, behold, the vessels of the house of Yahweh being caused to return from Babylon word, again, a directional hey at the end. Now, quickly, because, okay, there's a pause there that we don't have in our text, there should be an odd knock there. So they're coming from Babylon now quickly. Pause. Because a lie or falsehood, sheker, a lie, because a falsehood or a lie, they are prophesying to you all. Okay, so the third line, the fourth word in, we see mu on the front. Well, that means it's a participle, and we have the shurik there, so it's mu. So this is a hopeful. Mushavim, it's being caused to return, passive, causal, meaning they are being brought from Babylon. Because if you cause something to return, you're bringing it back. But that's what it is woodenly. There's also was a pause. I don't know if that was clear on the second line here. It says, Yahweh, not you will listen to the words of y'all's prophets. Okay, and there should be a pause there. And then be the ones prophesying. I'm not sure if I said it that way the last time or the first time. Okay, next, number 7. We start off with our hufal or hopeful. This is from 2 Samuel 6:12. And so, and it was caused to be told, or it was told, is all we would say. Just make it past tense. It was told, but it is causal. Except we never bring it across that way. So it was told to the king David to say, he made blessed Yahweh the house of Obed-Edom. God did. God made blessed the house of Obed-Edom, all which was to him or is to him, which was in to him, which means all is his, on account of the ark of God. And he went, David went, and he caused to go up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with joy. All right. So we had, he caused to go up. That's vaya al. That is not an obvious. I know that now, but I remember that came up as a question on our readers group on Saturdays, and I had to look into why, and I've just remembered it since then. But it's just kind of that way. You're not going to be able to diagnose it that easily. Let's see. I already talked about the first word is our hopeful. So the next one is number 8 from Ezekiel 40, verse 4. And he spoke to me, the man, the son of Adam. Oh, then this is what he said. Son of Adam, see, that's an imperative. See with your eyes, or with the eyes of you, and with your ears, or with the ears of you, listen, another imperative. And put the heart of you, or your heart, to all that all that I am causing you to see, because in order that to cause to see you, you were caused to come, or you were brought here. So then another imperative, tell, or cause to tell, but just tell all that you sing to the house of Israel. All right, so we had a couple of different For instance, the last word on the second line, we see the on the front. So that was cause to see you, to cause you to see. But this first word on the third line, there's our who. So this is a hopeful. This was you were caused to come. If you were caused to come, you were brought. Still passive, you were brought. All right, and then over to the Hebrew reading 3, which is Deuteronomy 10, 12 through 14. Like I say, this is all pretty straightforward. I don't even think there's a hopeful in here. We'll see as we go through. And now, Israel, what Yahweh your God asking from with you? Notice, see the may there. Why is it may? This is mean, preposition mean. Normally you get a dagesh in the next letter, but look, it's naim. It's a guttural. It can't take the dagesh, so we have a compensatory lengthening. It goes from a hirik to a xere. So from with you. And then it looks like because if, but that is used as an idiom in the sense of except. Except, so what is God asking? Except to fear Yahweh, your God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh, your God, with all your heart and with all your soul, to keep or to guard the commandments of Yahweh and his statutes, which I am commanding I'm commanding you the day or today, for good for you, or for your good, what that means. Behold, to Yahweh your God, the heavens and the heavens of the heavens, the earth and all which, and we had to supply a to be verb in there, which is in her, all which is in her. All right, any questions on those translations? All right. Then we will take a look at PALs. So learning objectives, we want to understand what is a PAL? What is a PL stem? What does it mean? Then we want to identify PL strong verbs, and we want you to translate PL verbs. So starting with the meaning of PL stem, we start with a root. In this case, it's the kill root, kof tet lamed, and we make the call stem. Call is light, fast, small, and so all we do is add some vowels to it, and we get he killed. And then from the call stem, we have all of our derived stems here, and we've already looked at the nifal, he fill, hoful. Today we're looking at the PL. And we only have 2 left. We'll have the weak verbs next week, and then we'll have strong and weak verbs for pual and heat poil. So that is the conjugation we're looking at, or the stem rather, the stem that we're looking at. And we call it PAL because that's what happens to the word. We see the I and the E, PAL, and we have the hirik and sere, PAL. So this is PAL. That's how you pronounce that. That's the word for work or for verb. And so the name comes from what happens to the word. And so we have 3 different kinds of action. We have 3 different kinds of voices: active, passive, reflexive. We've looked at all the simple actions: active, passive, reflexive. Now we've looked at all the causative. There is no reflexive. You can't cause yourself to do something. If you cause yourself to do something, you did it. That's all. You wouldn't say caused yourself to do something. So there's no reflective. So we've got all those. Now we're beginning the intensive. This is the intensive action, and the PL is the active action. The subject is doing the action. Pual, next in 2 weeks we'll look at pual, and that's going to be passive. That means and it's intensive action happening to the subject. But we'll cover that in a couple of weeks. So we're doing the PL, and we still have pual and hupal. So PL, again, as we said, it is intensive action. That will need some explanation. That is not always as straightforward. That's one of the errors, or one of the things that you can fall into easily on first-year Hebrew, is that it's intensive. Well, it's intensive, but intensive doesn't just mean intensive. And we'll talk about that too as we go. But it's the intensive stem and it's the active action. The subject's doing it. So we have the call word, shavar, which means he broke. But in the Piel, it becomes shiber. And since this is intensive, it means he shattered. Not just he broke, but he shattered. It's intensified. Some of the different uses, we say it's intensive, and some of that is like the word we just looked at, shiber. It is, it goes from being, he broke to he shattered, he smashed, something like that. That's intensive. This is all coming. You have a chart on page 329. No, I take that back. It isn't. Well, yeah, it starts on 329, and it mentions intensive. And then we have the factitive, denominative, iterative, and simple action. We'll come back and talk about that. Just want to make some notes here since we have the book open. When it comes to denominative, if you think of that as being an unnoun, you're going to take a noun and make it an unnoun. It's not going to be a noun. We have examples of that in English. Text used to be a noun. When you talked about a text, you're talking about a document or something like that. Now text is also a verb. It can be a noun or a verb. Okay, so we've unnouned it. We've made it a verb. That would be the denominative. I remember the first time I heard somebody says, it was one of my neighbors back when we lived in Sioux Falls. He says, I'm having trouble with adulting. Oh, I thought, never. It was the first time I ever heard that. Usual adult is a noun, but when you say adulting, now you've made it a verbal idea. That's kind of what happens with denominative. Now, I do have a little bit of a complaint, or I'd like to at least look at it a little bit more thoroughly. On the second word under the denominative, he's got devar and then kohen and then afar. And it says noun, kohen. Well, it's treated as a noun. And a lot of times you'll even have dictionaries or something if you have an app and you tap on it, and it'll tell you it's a noun. But look at that O vowel. This is actually a participle form. But the participle form was so pervasive that it got treated as a noun. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Kohen, yeah, a lot of things are going to tell you it's a noun. It's actually one priesting. It's a participle. Another thing I wanted to cover on this page is on the factative there. To be holy, we have the call, kadash, but then we have hidash on the PL side. It says to sanctify. Well, it's to make it holy. If you make something holy, then you're sanctifying it. So, and the next one, to make perish. Well, if you make something perish, you're destroying it. And then the last one is to make unclean. If you make something unclean, you're defiling it. So I just wanted to bring that out. That's that is a very, very common use for the PL, is this factative, where you're making something, you're bringing something to a state. So I wanted to point that out too. All right. So with that, you might want to leave the book open. We're going to come back to it here soon. But with that, now I want to go through this list on the screen. So the intensive, we learned that shiber, that it's not just broken, it's he shattered. Then a factative would be kidesh, which means he sanctified, but it's in the sense of he made it holy. He made it holy. So in better English, simpler English, it becomes he sanctified. Denominative, that's the unnoun. So we have diber, which comes from word, as we see on the page there on 330. But for the denominative, it becomes he spoke. But it makes sense because if you have words, okay, and if you make words, you're talking. Okay, he spoke. Well, he made words, so it still kind of makes sense, even though it's listed as a different um, use of the PL. And then there's the iterative. So hilak, well, halak means to walk, but the iterative, it's he walked around. Okay, so those are the different uses of PL. And so you can see it isn't always like broken, shattered, where it's we can understand that as intensive, but a lot of times it's factative, it's bringing something to a state. And actually, debear is so common, that might even be one of the more highly used ones, but it would be mostly used with this same word, taking a noun and turning it into a verb. He spoke, from word to spoke. Okay, so that's what PL stem means. Now we want to be able to identify PL strong verbs. So let's look at this. Look at the summary on page 335. Excuse me, 335, and just eyeing down different um, the different conjugations here, starting with the perfect. And you can see, look at the Herrick. You go all the way down the list. You got that Herrick all the way down. Pretty easy. No, the top one, they show it in red. That's your diagnostic. Second diagnostic is the Dagesh and the Tet. And you look down through there and you have that Dagesh all the way down. That is really consistent. You can also tell, this is like I don't know, a spoiler or preview for next week when we look at look at weak verbs. Well, what if you have a guttural in the second root position? It's not going to take the Dagesh. Okay, yep, that's where it'll be a little bit more challenging. But excuse me, that's for next week. This week, as far as the strong verbs, you see that Herrick in the perfect. You see the Herrick and the Dagesh and in the R2 all the way down. And so for the imperfects, well, now we have preformatives, and the preformatives, you have that schwa all the way down except for the first person common, because you have the aleph preformative, and aleph is a guttural. It can't take the schwa, and so you get the reduced patak there. But all the rest of them have that. I mean, that's easy enough to explain. That's the only exception on there. And then, so that's under the preformative. And then if you look at the R2, you have the Dagesh and the R2 all the way down. So again, very easy, consistent pattern. The imperative, well, the imperative, as in all the different stems, the imperative looks like the imperfect if you rip the preformative off. And that's exactly what you see. You've got that patak, sorry, patak under the R1 letter, and you have the Dagesh and the R2. And you have that all the way through on all the imperatives. And the imperatives, the infinitive constructs, the infinitive absolutes all look the same. And it's like we saw in the translations earlier, if it's an infinitive absolute, you can usually tell because there's two of the basic roots right in a row. And you can tell by context otherwise for the others. But those all look the same. Again, you have the patak and you have the Dagesh in the R2. And then finally, over in the participle column, again, we have mems. We're going to have mems and participles for all the rest of the stems we look at. And it follows the same pattern that we see in the imperfect. You got the schwa, you got the patak, and you got the Dagesh and the tet there, or the R2 letter. So very, very consistent diagnostics to use. So now that we've looking at the big picture. That's why do I look at the summary first? Because I want you to have the big picture. I want you to see what is in common. What's the big thing to learn in this? And so that's why we do this. And then we can look at the details. So for the PL perfect diagnostics, we have the keep tail. We have the PL is keep tail. All right. So we have this Herrick, we have the Dagesh. If you just kind of can draw a line with your eyes there, like that, you draw that line with your eyes, it'll make it easier to find it. So that's the perfect diagnostics. And that's what we saw when we looked at his chart. We saw a Herrick, and we had the under the R1, and we had the Dagesh in the R2. So just looking at a few. So we have a perfect plus the Hirik and the Dagesh. That's what these little dots here are. That's the Hirik. That's a little lower because the letter would be right here, and then you have the Dagesh and the next letter. So that's what those are symbolizing. And so we're going to take a perfect like Katalta. So you killed, and we're going to make it into a PL, and it's going to be Kitalta, Kitalta. So it's very standard, or the very what's the word I'm looking for? Very consistent, very consistent. The third masculine singular, note down at the bottom, we do have the sere there, but you still have the Dagesh and the R2. That's a strong diagnostic to go by, the Dagesh. And of course, we can look at the second person plural, Katal Tem, and we have Kital Tem. We just have the Hirik under the R1. We have the Dagesh and the R2. So those are our diagnostics. So that's the in the perfect. Now this is except perfect. We're looking at the standard diagnostics for everything but perfect. And we see the Patak, and we see the Dagesh. The Dagesh is very consistent in this for the strong verbs. And so we have Katail. Now, but that would look perfect because we don't have any preformatives or anything. So to make it imperfect, we're going to add the yod there. Now we have Vikatail, Vekatail. And this pattern here, the Shva, the Patak, and the Dagesh, this is something you need to remember too for the diagnostics. The Shva, the Patak, and the Dagesh. Okay, now let's look at some examples. For the imperfect, well, that's what we just had. So this is the preformative, third masculine singular for the imperfect. He will kill, and this would be more like he will slaughter because it's the PL. So we have the Shva, Patak, Dagesh. Okay, and so the PL imperfect 2MS. We have the preformative 2MS. It could be a 3FS too, but context will tell you. But there's our preformative, and we still have the Shva, Patak, and Dagesh. It's the pattern that it's going to follow. Okay, we rip the preformative off of the imperfect. What does that give us? That gives us an imperative, right? So we don't have the Shva, but we still have, for the imperative, we still have the Patak, Dagesh. That doesn't go away. So it's still the diagnostic that we want to remember. Okay, so the imperative has the Patak, Dagesh, and as we noted earlier, the infinitive construct and the infinitive absolute are identical. We still have the Patak and Dagesh. We don't have the Shva there. Then as we move to participles, we have the mem prefix and the Shva comes back, and we have the Shva, Patak, Dagesh. So when you see that pattern, that's, you're looking at PL. That's the diagnostics that we need to remember. You don't have to go back and learn any new pronominal suffixes. You don't have to learn any new preformatives and subformatives. Those are all the same. All we have to do is remember what varied, and we know what varied because of the name of the stem, and we know that it's these vowels here, PL. Now, so the I would be in the perfect, but we do need to remember that the rest of the time it's going to be at the top. So that's how we identify them. And then finally, how do we translate them? So we have Katal, he killed. That's the call. And we're going to make it into a PL. And so tail, that's the PL. He slaughtered. But that is, and that's intensive. That's the intensive use. but it's also theoretical. I don't think there's anywhere in the Old Testament where they use katal for slaughter. I don't think they ever use the PL for that. There are other words for slaughtering, and those are used. So that's why it says theoretical underneath it, because you're not going to see it in Hebrew. But we're not going to worry about that because we just want to make sure we recognize this pattern for the call, and we also want to recognize this in the perfect. This would be a call perfect, or this would be a call perfect, and this would be a PL perfect. Then you have the I and the I and the E and the tsere there. Okay, Kazakh. This is in the call, so it's that's strength if it's a noun, but it's a verb. It's he became strong, he was strong, something like that. Now we're going to make it a PL, so it becomes Kizak. We still see the Hirik and the Dagesh there. So that's the PL. And he made something strong. That's going to be the factitive. He brought something to the state of being strong. Malay means that's call, and it means he found or filled. I'm sorry, he filled, or he was full. Could be either way. And for the PL, it becomes milay. It's the PL. He made full. Which actually he made full and he filled, those are really similar in meanings. Not much difference there. And here's devar. That's the noun, means word. And we make it into a PL verb by putting the hirik below the R1 and having the dagesh in the R2. And it becomes making word, the PL, which is actually he spoke. And that's, like I say, a really, and the Lord spoke to Moses saying, and you just see this all the time, was a heavy usage. And the thing is, how do you know the difference between a word and speaking? Well, does the R2 have a dagesh? Okay, then it's speaking. If it does not have a dagesh, then it's a word or a thing. Sometimes devar just means a thing or a matter. That works too. So this would be denominative. It's an unword. It takes a word and makes it an unword. Okay, katav means he wrote. That's the call. He wrote. Kitev. It's we do have a little bit of vowel difference, but we still have the hirik and we still have the dagesh. So that's the PL, and it means he kept writing. This would be the iterative use. Safar, this is an interesting thing because a sefer is a book or scroll, right? Safar, that's the call verb. So sefer is the noun. The call verb form, he counted, safar. Somebody writing, they count. I'll go ahead with the slide now and come back and talk about that some more. So we're going to make it a PL. It becomes siper. And siper as a PL means he recounted. It's again iterative. So where I was going with the other thing, sefer is a book, but safar is he counted. When they copied the Hebrew scriptures, the scribes counted. They counted words. They counted letters. They knew if they were making a copy and they went through and counted the letters or counted the words. Let's go with words first. They counted the words. They knew that out of the whole Torah, this particular word, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I've got it in one of my notes. Is the middle word. You should have the same number of words before it and the same number of words after it. Or if it was letter, which is the center letter in it, or each of the books of the Torah, they would count to ensure that they had the right number of letters, the right number of words, and they were making a faithful copy of the scriptures. And so we have this connection between between a book and counting, because that's what the scribes did. They did an awful lot of counting. And if it wasn't right, they had to fix it, go back and rewrite some of it, and find out what happened to it. So that's one reason why the Hebrew scriptures that we have are in such good condition as far as reliably um, providing us with what the prophets said, what Moses said, and so on. So you do see pair a number of times. Somebody recounted a story to somebody. You do see that, but that's the iterative. Then bakash, which is call, that's the lexical form. I don't know that that ever shows up in the call, but that is the lexical form. But we have bikash, and that's the PL form, and it means he searched. So we don't really have a made here or some kind of intensification going on here, because the call doesn't really exist. It just gets translated like it was a call. That happens too. Okay, so let's go over the vocabulary. Take a quick look here and make sure if there's anything else I wanted to. I think that's it. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to the, I think I talked about everything. Oh, no, here's a note. It's in the vocabulary though. So vocabulary is on page 335. The first word, halal, to defile or profane. And that's true for most of the verb stems. There's an error in the book, and you should make note of it in your book, that this word, halal, in the hefil and hofal, both hefil and hofal, it means to begin, to begin. This was right in the second edition of the book. This is an error that was introduced in the third edition. And what they did is they pulled off when they pulled the information out of the database for the gloss, they did not go very far and get that. They lost it. If you also want to make a note in the not vocabulary, in the lexicon in the back of your grammar, that's page 453. They made the same error there. And so you might want to go to page 453 and also correct it. But whenever you have halal in, well, when it's in the hefil or hoful, it means to begin. And so you see like that. And so Saul began to persecute David, something like that. Or Saul began to chase David. Or, well, in Genesis 6, you have, or not 6, was it 5, 4, 4 or 5, 5, I think. At that time, men began to call upon the name of the Lord, began. So you have that, and that's not uncommon. I don't know, it's probably 50, 60 times probably that it shows up in a hefil or a hoful, and that it doesn't mean anything about defiling. It has to do with beginning. And this happens, it's not real common, but it does happen whenever you're looking up a word. You want to make sure you look it up with the stem, that it appears in the text, because sometimes a word will change its meaning in a different verb stem. Now, I haven't really talked about it much up to this point, but I have the Mounts Complete Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words. It's a good book to have. But one of the nice things, it's cheap. It's only like, I don't know, probably it's under $40. It might be 35, could even be 20 something. I don't know. It's not that expensive. It's a good book. And when he lists Hebrew definitions, he will list them by stem. And so he'll say, well, I should have had this already queued, but if I could find it quickly to find halal here, and I hate to take the time for it. I'm getting close. I can just read it off to you. Okay, halal. There. Well, okay, there's a whole bunch of halals, and so there it is. I found the one. So it appears 135 times. Yep, that's what they say in the vocabulary there. It appears 135 times, and so for the default, since to defile oneself, to be profaned, to be desecrated, for the PL, to defile, to profane, so you're going to make it defiled, make it profane, desecrate. Pual, to be defiled, it's going to be passive. Hefil, to begin, to proceed, launch. Hofal, to be begun. And so that's an example of having a decent dictionary that gives you the meanings of a word in the different stems. All right, enough on that. Let's go on to the next one. Nagad. Nagad means to tell. Shavah means to swear an oath. So it looks like seven. So whenever Abraham took seven lambs and had them out there as they were at the oath of the well of the oath, Beersheba, the king said, "What are these lambs? Seven lambs for seven and an oath are similar. That's why those are connected that way." And then shalach is to send or throw, cast. Dullet is a door. Da'at is knowledge. And a lot of times if you see that, well, that'd actually be a verb. People say yada, yada, yada. That's the verb form. You know, you know, you know. Then you see da'at is related to that. Hamon is a multitude, but it's also sometimes used for a loud sound because a multitude can make a lot of sound. So those are related. That's listed in Ezekiel as they're going to have the multitude of Gog, Hamon Gog. So anyway, that's one of the places that's used. Zeroah is arm. Keruv is like we probably say it more as well. Cherubim is keruv and keruvim. Karam is a vineyard. Malkut is a kingdom. You can see the Malak in there, the king. Oh, Malkut is the kingdom. You can see it's related to the word for king. And we've had that on slides in the past. And then Eitzah is counsel or plan. Any questions? All right, so homework is memorize chapter 30 vocabulary. Go ahead and work on exercise 30 in your workbook, and then go ahead and read chapter 31, which will be the PL weak verbs. Again, are there any questions?